Alright, hello everybody, Friendly Red here, and welcome to my initial impressions of the sequel we never thought we would receive. But yes, this is Hades 2. Hades 2. I mean, man, honestly, that alone should be enough to sell you, right? A second Hades game? But if you somehow missed the first game, however, allow me to provide some insight. Hades is an isometric action roguelike set within a very original and unique take on Greek mythology, made by one of my all-time favorite developers, Supergiant Games. Despite making different games of many differing genres, themes, and playstyles, you'll always know when you're playing a game of theirs. Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, and now the Hades duology, while not being connected in any way, always have that distinct Supergiant style, combining stylized 3D models with absolutely gorgeous hand-drawn or hand-painted environments and character portraits. They also have an insanely talented pool of voice actors and musicians in all their games, so regardless of which title you play, your senses are in for a treat. But now, while I could go on and on praising Supergiant, we need to get back to focus and discuss Hades 2. So yes, Hades 2, as the name would imply, is indeed a sequel to 2020's Hades, and serves as Supergiant's first ever sequel. Seeing as how so much of Hades 2 is derived from the original game, it'll help if I go over that game first, methinks. In Hades, the player takes on the role of the Prince of the Underworld Zagreus as he attempts to get to the surface and find his missing mother. On his way to the surface, Zagreus must traverse different areas of said underworld, facing off against fearsome foes and bosses, and eventually, the king of the underworld himself, Hades. Along the way, you'll be in touch with numerous different gods from across the Greek pantheon, who offer their support in the form of different buffs and modifiers to your character that can really change up how your run plays out. Upon clearing a run or dying, you'll be sent back to a hub zone, where you can talk to different allies and other NPCs stationed around the area. These characters will offer up bits of story and world building, and can also provide tips and even equipment to help you out on your runs throughout the underworld. And while you do not carry anything from a previous run with you to succeeding ones, you can obtain permanent upgrades to some of your stats and powers at the hub zone, which will help you out in your future attempts. All combined, it makes for a very satisfying gameplay loop of frantic and fun action combat, followed by a cooling off period of sorts after a run, where you get to chill in your hub area and talk with your friends and allies, learning more about them, their role in the story, and more about the underworld and lore of the world of Hades in general. But that's Hades. The original Hades, not Hades 2. Thankfully, all of what I just stated remains true in Hades 2, which is only a good thing. See, everything Hades did in 2020, it did to an exceedingly high level of quality. The action gameplay is incredibly tight, fast, and fun to control. The story, setting, and characters are all a joy to interact with and discover. The depth of builds and choices you have to control how easy or challenging the game can be. It really was a truly remarkable roguelike, and game as a whole, very much deserving of its wide praise and critical acclaim. Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel or drastically change things up, Hades 2 instead offers up all of what made the original so great, but with smart changes and additions that make it feel distinct, while still being thoroughly Hades. So, before we get into what's new in Hades 2, I do want to stress that despite being a sequel with a big fat 2 at the end of the title, Hades 2 can very much still be enjoyed as a standalone product, and I would highly urge you to not be discouraged from playing it if you haven't played the original. From what I've played so far, there are certainly some nice little bonuses you get with having some history or knowledge of the first game, but it's for sure not a requirement to enjoy the second. Now then, what is new in Hades 2? Well, while the bones of the game are still very much the same as Hades 1, the meat is all fresh, so to speak. And, wow, after saying that aloud, that may be my weirdest analogy ever. Anyways, we have a new protagonist, a new hub world to explore, characters to interact with, new and returning gods to converse with and obtain powers from, and so on. With regards to more notable new additions, I think the biggest one has to be the magic system. Our new playable protagonist, Melanoi, Princess of the Underworld, has much of the same core moveset as Zagreus did from Hades 1. She can use basic attacks with her equipped weapons of choice, dash to move around quicker and evade attacks, and fire off a range attack. However, in Hades 2, you may notice another meter above your health bar, and this is where magic comes into play. The magic system allows you to charge magic into any of your basic actions to augment them, generally making them stronger by hitting harder, covering a wider area of effect, and so on. I'll be honest, when I first started playing, it didn't seem like too big of a change, but as I've played more and done more runs, expanded my magic, and seen what some of the different boons can do to your skills in tandem with magic, I've come to realize that just this one change to the gameplay alone makes for a world of difference between Hades 2 and the original. It adds another level of strategy and thinking, both in and out of combat, as you need to carefully manage your magic while also trying to get proper boons and different passive upgrades as you go on to really make the most of it, and hopefully also make it synergize with your weapons and other buffs and equipment. So yeah, the magic system is for sure the biggest game changer, to me at least, in Hades 2. Everything else so far has been, like I said, more of what we saw in the original. But I'm not complaining. The new characters have all been a treat to interact with, the new zones look amazing and offer unique challenges and trials to overcome, with the third in particular being very different from any other zones prior, which I've quite enjoyed as it really spices up the run. Returning players may also get a kick out of something that pops up occasionally too. The gods, much like the original game, remain another highlight for me. I said it earlier, but Supergiant's interpretation of the Greek pantheon is one of the most original, diverse, and fun takes on these mythological deities, and I've loved all the new and returning gods I've encountered so far. And of course, the visuals, music, and gameplay all remain sublime and up to the usual Supergiant standard. Despite this only being an early access version of Hades 2 and not the full release, what's here is honestly so fun, polished, and well crafted that it honestly puts some actual fully released games to shame. And it can be pretty easy to forget that, yeah, this isn't the final product. It really is that good. So yeah, if it wasn't obvious, I absolutely adore Hades 2 already, and even in its early access period, I'd say it's worth jumping in. However, I can also totally understand wanting to wait until the full game is ready to go before taking this journey, so you can experience it at its fullest without potentially having to wait for certain aspects to be complete or ironed out. Damn, I really want to play some more Hades 2 now. But I think that'll do it for this initial impressions of Hades 2. I do hope I was able to relay both my thoughts and the info well, and as always, I thank you for watching and for your continued support. I'll see you next time, and remember, death to Chronos.